If there's anything I know, it's that I suck at Dark Souls. So, to get fame, millions of dollars, and my face on billboards, I decided to torment myself trying to answer the question, can you beat Dark Souls with only a whip? It feels only right to begin by talking about the linchpin of the run, the whip. So get ready for the masterclass. The whip is a dex-based weapon that begins with a B scaling until upgraded to plus 14, then it becomes A. It requires 7 strength and 14 dex to use, and can normally be found in Blighttown. The damage on the whip begins at Pool Noodle tier and ends at Wet Towel. Its max is equivalent to other starting weapons like the longsword, sitting at 80 physical damage out of the box and 200 when upgraded, while also inflicting similar poise damage. The whip has no additional effects such as poison or bleed. It's a bog standard attacker, which on paper doesn't sound too bad, but considering how atrocious the whip's moveset is, I'd rather have the longsword. The whip has 3 usable attacks and 2 heavy attacks. The single-handed R1 attack is probably the best move the whip has to offer. It's a quick, fast startup move that attacks in a forward direction with a very good range. Its hitbox is good, and it doesn't deflect off walls that often. It's also the only usable move in the tight spaces like caves, with the biggest downside being the damage is just lackluster. The two-handed R1 attack is an attack. It's somewhat quick, but has a slow startup, while attacking in an arc in front of you. The hitbox on this attack is atrocious. It feels like the hitbox is jutted to the right a little bit too much, so assume you're going to be deflecting off everything. It's unusable in any tight spaces, but is the de facto go-to just because of the increased damage. The last acceptable attack is the running attack. It's a quick, fast startup move that also attacks in a forward direction. It's on par with the light attack in terms of usability, but the running start restricts the viability of the attack. Granted, it's a lifesaver during a certain boss fight. The two R2 attacks are both garbage. The one-handed heavy is a worse version of the two-handed light, but it does offer the only combo attack the whip possesses, with a 2-hit combo. Meanwhile, the two-handed heavy attack feels like I'm being a ringmaster at a circus, trying to tame a lion. All I'm missing is that chair. It does feel great when you do clap someone with it though. With that out of the way, you know everything there is to know about the whip. Oh wait, I forgot something. The whip has no falling attack and no repost. Come on, From Software, couldn't you have given it Poison Super from Street Fighter or something?
I got you. Take off.
Jumping in, we create Simon Belmont. Well, close enough. We also take the Master Key because I'm a scrub and choose the Hunter class. Rolling past a boulder, we lash Oscar for resting on the job, no lazy workers here, while making our way to the Asylum Demon. This is where I first learned the whip did not have a plunging attack. I just stupidly fall right in front of him with the deer in headlights expression. With my pitiful damage, I quickly realized that I've just awoken into a nightmare, and it's only just begun. I finish the Asylum Demon off with a cheeky butt slap, then escape from the funny farm and make it to the Taurus Demon. Normally, I'd embrace the beast with the love of plunging attacks, but in the whip's case, we must fight him mano a mano. I initially planned for this run to allow consumables in the same fashion of Castlevania where firebombs act as holy water, but after using 5 of them only to die, I came to the realization I wasn't good enough for items. But I did stick with the inexpensive throwing knives just for style points. Given many more attempts than I'm willing to admit, I finally pulled a dub from the Taurus Demon, finishing him with a knife for redemption. I grab the Grass Crest shield because I'm a filthy scrub and make my way towards the gargoyles. Making it to them proved to be a much bigger problem than anticipated, partially because I wanted to finish my scrub attire by adding the Fat Ring, which added a good 30 minutes of Lautrec's deaths to my ever-increasing total. If nothing else, I have tenacity. After the bout, I figured now is as good a time as any to upgrade the whip. Don't know why I didn't do it before, but here we are. Then I make it to the roofs. Finally. The upgraded whip does a shocking amount of damage to the stone predators, even being able to kill the first gargoyle before the second one can even assist. I finish the second one off and ring the first bell without much of a hitch. Returning to Andre, I +5 my whip and enter the Darkroot Garden where I pluck the wings from a butterfly, then enter Havel's Tower looking for a fight. A fight that is usually straightforward by either parrying or backstabbing him, but the whip can't do either, so I flog through the massive armor slowly. With him out of the way, all encumbrance problems have been solved for the rest of the game, and My noob attire is complete. I was then attacked by a bat-salted old man, forcing me to protect myself before making my way to the Kappa demon. It turned into a tight 2-shot after I chugged all my jugs in the first 15 seconds of the fight, but I pulled out a victory. Entering the depths, I make sure to pick up the large ember to give to Andre later, pick a fight with a very large vermin, flee, then die to a larger than average vermin. This death upset me greatly because of how atrocious the run from Undeadburg is. And now imagine doing it 5 more times. Entering the Gaper's domain is always a pleasure, one of the coolest designs in the whole game. Okay, yeah, I'll be grabbed for sure here. Somehow the whip has the capability to cut the tail off? That's interesting, and the Gaping Dragon goes down. Finally free of this accursed place, I go back to Andre again, I hand him the ember, and upgrade the whip further. I ignore and will forever ignore the normal way into Blighttown, instead opting for the back door. Before fighting Quelaag, I reached the soft cap for Dex, meaning only weapon upgrades will help me with damage from this point onwards. The Quelaag fight was when I began experiencing Stockholm Syndrome for the whip. Having thoughts like, it's a fun and underrated weapon that dishes out plenty of damage, especially compared to foes like Quelaag. Why does everyone hate it? I blame it on my ignorance of not playing Dark Souls for a long while. Regardless, I tenderize Quelaag, then ring the second bell. Wanting to upgrade my Estus Flask, I kill Quelaag number 2, which certainly won't bite me in the ass later. Why do these boots make my feet look like jello? I buy enough large Titanite from the floating lad to upgrade my whip to +10, then face off versus the Iron Golem. Throwing knife money shot? Oh, not flagellation instead. Why do you still have a hitbox after you die? Finally. Getting the Anor Lando castle, I pick up Havel's armor for later and get the big bonk and small stick. To my surprise, these two didn't take that many attempts. The hardest part of the whole fight was keeping that position together to avoid any flying Ornsteins. Done and done. Please whip me, big busted goddess. With the good half of the game done, we ignore Framp and place the Lord Vessel, opening the bad half of the game. I go to the catacombs where I almost certainly do not die to Pinwheel. Moving on, I already have the best in slot fashion helm on, so the Mask of the Mother will collect dust, but the kindling will be invaluable. Ignoring the Tomb of the Giants for now, I readmit myself into the asylum because I was having these weird fantasies. I was an egg. An unhatched yolk. Wanting to be cracked.
It's got a little egg on it, it's got glasses on. What?
Oh god, where am I? It happened again. Who killed Asylum Demon number 2? I pick up the doll and enter the painted world. I usually glitch my way past the dragon, but this time I did it the way God intended. Facing off against Seath's failed science experiment, I found it odd how Priscilla was welcoming my whips, embracing it, so much so she even parted way with her tail. With one final whip, we finish her off. In the Duke's archives, I quickly come to realize that Crystal Men care very little for my whip-based shenanigans, often tearing my flesh asunder. It's supposed to be the other way around, fellas, come on. Oh, Seath, come on, kill me, kill me, kill me. Jesus, Seath, that was so close, you nearly cursed me. The unstockholmification for my whip has begun too. How is my +10 whip struggling to kill 3 lizard men from Sten's freaking fortress? Nearing Seath, I try to make clam chowder, but quickly give up when I notice how pitiful my damage is, and run towards him. One of my clam buddies decides to join us and is quickly tenderized by Seath. No, not Clamulon! Now it is personal. A lot of whips later, I finish Seath off, avenging my fallen comrade and obtaining my first Lord Soul. This has begun to take a while, and since the beginning of the challenge run, I've been going at it for a couple of hours. I needed a break, and my dog needed to use the bathroom. But when I go to leash her, she grabs a kitchen knife from the counter and engages me in Mortal Kombat. With a K.
Round 1. Fight!
I had no choice, officer. I had to whip her down. I didn't want to, you have to trust me. Anywho, I pick up the cover of Valtorius, and instead of spending the souls I earned from Sif, I thought it'd be funny to almost lose them by grabbing the stone armor. Why am I like this? At least I got them back, so no controller into the monitor today. In New Lando, I meet with Ingward, who gives me the key to the seal, then I casually walk off the edge thinking the stairs were connected. Eventually I open the gates and make it to the lower part of New Lando where I pick up the Greater Ember. I instantly went back to Andre and gave him the Ember, upgrading me all the way to plus 12. Back in New Lando, the 4 kings aren't that bad. Surprisingly, I have enough damage to kill them before they can overwhelm me. Lord Soul down. Make my way back through Quelaag's domain towards the demon ruins. I take out another Kappa demon. It's always a good feeling seeing how much easier they get given enough time and progression. Me and this worm have an all-out brawl over a bonfire, then I run to Asylum Demon number 3 who is much like the others, just on fire. Playing the fight aggressively earns me a one-way express ticket to the bonfire, but the second go around ends much better. Centipede Demon has always been one of my favorite bosses from a design perspective. I love those sizzling eyes. During the fight, I chop off his tail, kill it, get the orange ring, before turning the Centipede Demon's lights off forever. Running through Lost Izalith, I begin reaping what I sowed when I slayed Quelaag's sister. See, if you join her covenant and give her enough humanity, she gives you access to a shortcut to reach the bed of chaos much quicker. Being able to circumvent the hellish landscape with dragon butts everywhere who stomp and jump on you like a trampoline. And guess how many times your boy died trying to get to the bed of chaos? Only once. Gotcha. After whipping a defenseless thing, we acquire the 3rd Lord Soul, only one more left. On the way back to the catacombs, Fram tells me how he really feels.
You sorry fool. You could not be the chosen one. Enough.
And I surprisingly find the bonfire and the Tomb of the Giants without much trouble. I then quickly retrieve the Skull Lantern after killing Patches, and even with the Skull Lantern, the run through the Tomb of the Giants is chaotic to say the least. Only being able to see a couple feet in front of you is asking for trouble. Through some diligence, I get to Nito, who catches me mashing by grabbing me over and over again. The second go around, Nito instantly toxics me, hanging back with his big skeleton friends. They don't actually like you, dude. You just keep them immortal. All the while, the little ones are nipping at my feet, quickly building up my bleed meter. I somehow go through my menu to use a blooming purple to cure my toxic, begin thinning out the skeletons and putting some pressure on Nito. The fight turns into an all-out brawl where I happen to come out on top, picking up the 4th and final Lord Soul. The 4th Lord Soul grants me access to the Kiln of the First Flame, where we can farm Titanite chunks. I quickly upgrade my whip to plus 15, so we're not getting any more stronger from here on out. On to the DLC, but first, the honorary boss, Henry the Hydra. It's a straightforward fight as I slowly take head after head off. I even hit him with a sick backhand shot at one point. All is well until I get to the last hit. Normally I have enough damage to kill him before he gets to this point, but here we are. I had to find this rock and wait for his head to glitch through before even having a chance to hit him on the pullback. And don't ask me why I stopped using one hand after hitting him so easily, instead opting to struggle using 2 hands. After enough time and patience, I eventually take the beast down and enter the DLC. Facing off against the Sanctuary Guardian, I instantly felt the difference between the base game bosses and the DLC bosses. The Sanctuary Guardian is nimble and fast attacking. Frankly, I wasn't prepared for this quality shift. It took me a lot of attempts to acclimate, and then I started to embrace greed, trying to snap his tail off, because only one man here can have a whip. I eventually decided the tail isn't worth it and just focused on putting him down, clearing the Sanctuary Guardian. Before facing off against Artorias, I knew I had to steal Chester's digs, because if this doesn't scream Simon Belmont, I just don't know what will. Artorias is my sticking point. Usually. He fights like a Dark Souls 3 boss being polished and fair. The most dangerous moment is when he begins to charge up. If you fail to stagger him, the fight becomes that much more challenging. This is where I learned the value of the whip's running light attack. It is the only way I found that can deal enough damage to stagger him. That was the key of figuring out the entire fight, which ultimately only took me 5 attempts. That's a record. And with Artorias down, I'm flying completely blind through the rest of the DLC. That's right, I have never fought Calamite or Manus, but it'll be fine, right? As it turns out, I did them in the wrong order. I fought Manus, then Calamite, but for the sake of this, we'll start with Calamite. Y'all ever think about why so many bosses are littered with ankle-biting trash? My first impression of the Calamite fight was, this is just a scaly Sith with a beak instead of a sword, with the addition of the Tinnitus Blast. And I stand by my opinion. The way Calamite moves is oddly like Sith, some attacks seem very similar to Sith's, and I found myself utilizing the same strategy as Sith. Being straddled to the whip wasn't so bad here either. The area is so large that there's no debris to clash into, and Calamite is huge, making it that much easier to hit him. What I struggled with most was predicting which attack he was going to unleash when he got on his hind legs. I would always run into the tiniest brain blast. In no way was the fight easy, and after dying a few times, I decided to take my frustrations out on Siran. Siran? CIA ran? Whatever, I crushed Artorias' soul in front of her. Take that, loser. With the suffering of another pumping through my veins stronger than any steroid could, it powered me up enough to take down Calamite. Like, 5 tries later, of course, but I attribute my success to suffering. Manus time. To cover a lot of ground quickly, I'll simply say Manus is the hardest boss in the game, which I know is a very bold statement. Having the largest arsenal of attack options in the game, he caught me off guard more times than I'd like to admit. It even had the goal to upstage me on my own challenge run, being equipped with a monkey whip arm. I wasn't completely blind to this fight though. From watching other Dark Souls videos, I knew about the silver pendant, but execution is more important than knowledge when it comes to Dark Souls. God, but using it correctly is like Guinevere. Bussin'. All in all, Manus is a very fun fight that I look forward to revisiting over and over again. It is the most Dark Souls fight in Dark Souls 1. Okay, time to wrap it up. Onwards towards Gwyn. Oh, wait, I forgot Gwendolyn. And done. Gwyn was not the boss I was expecting to struggle with the most during this run, but he superseded those expectations and then some. The usual strategy of parrying him was thrown out the window because of the whip's disability, meaning I had to fight him legitimately. And man is this guy relentless. There are hardly any opportunities to drink the Sunny D, and to make matters worse, he inflicts a disgusting amount of chip damage, invalidating all block. After many failures, I figured out the strat. I had to bait out his far-range jump attack, swipe once because of the whip's slow attack speed, and run away, repeating the cycle over and over again. Given enough time and patience, Gwyn eventually falls, marking an end to a surprisingly okay challenge run. The whip-only challenge run really surprised me. There were a lot of highs and many more lows, but in the end, I came to really enjoy this weapon. Its moveset is the only detriment when running through the areas of the game, because most boss fights have wide open arenas. It could be a lot worse. Looking at you, server. The damage itself is also decent for a dex scaling weapon. I've been under the impression that most of them are only capable of dealing double-digit damage, so it was a pleasant surprise. Give this run a shot if you're ever in an itch for a good challenge.